The Fourth Panzer Army, a machine of war and tragedy. In human history, nothing is as brutal as war, and few conflicts have left scars as deep as the Second World War. In that war, on the Eastern Front, one unit became a symbol of destructive power and, ultimately, tragedy: the Fourth Panzer Army of Nazi Germany. From its formation in 1941 under the name Panzergruppe 4, this unit was shaped by a horrific ideology. Adolf Hitler declared that this would not be a conventional military conflict, but a war of annihilation on ideological grounds. "I want the coming war against the Soviet Union to be waged not according to military principles, but as a war of annihilation," he stated. Hitler's words quickly turned into bloody orders. General Erich Hübner, commander of Panzergruppe 4, issued a directive to his troops. "The war against Russia is an important chapter in the German people's struggle for existence. The goal of this war must be the destruction of present-day Russia, and must therefore be conducted with unprecedented severity. Every military action must be guided in its planning and execution by an iron will to mercilessly and completely annihilate the enemy. In particular, no supporters of the present Russian Bolshevik system are to be spared." This was not merely war, it was a death sentence for an entire nation. On June 22, 1941, Operation Barbarossa commenced. Panzergruppe 4, with powerful divisions like the 1st and 6th Panzer Divisions and the notorious SS Totenkopf motorized division, became the spearhead, advancing deep into the Baltic region, heading towards Leningrad. The initial assault was a lightning strike. The German forces crushed all resistance, leaving behind roads littered with bodies and devastation. Along with the advance of the tanks, another terrifying specter followed closely on the heels of the German army: the Commissar Order. This order instructed Wehrmacht soldiers to kill Red Army political officers immediately upon capture, a blatant violation of international law. Hübner's Panzergruppe 4 did not hesitate to execute it. Within just a few weeks, hundreds of Red Army commissars were summarily executed. Worse still, the cooperation between Panzergruppe 4 and the mobile killing squads of the SS, the Einsatzgruppen, was recorded as generally very good, and, in some cases, such as with Panzergruppe 4 under General Hübner, extremely close, even warm. These units were responsible for mass killings targeting Jews, communists, and anyone deemed an enemy of the Third Reich. The war had escalated beyond military scope, transforming into a brutal genocide where human lives became as cheap as dirt. Despite initial successes, the tenacious resistance of the Red Army, along with unexpected counterattacks, began to wear down the strength of Panzergruppe 4. Every step forward came at the cost of blood and tears, not only from the enemy, but from the German soldiers themselves. They were advancing deep into a land they barely knew, where the harsh winter awaited to become their most formidable foe. By late 1941, Panzergruppe 4 was transferred to Army Group Center, becoming the spearhead of Operation Typhoon, the final assault on Moscow. But nature proved to be an immense obstacle. The heavy rainy season, known as Rasputitsa, turned roads into muddy quagmires, swallowing tanks and trucks, slowing the advance and exhausting the troops. As the mud froze, a blanket of white snow began to cover everything. The Russian winter, with temperatures plummeting to -40 degrees Celsius, dealt a fatal blow to the German forces. They were ill-equipped for these harsh conditions. Thousands died from frostbite, disease, frozen weapons, and engines that refused to start. The war was no longer just against the Red Army, but a struggle for survival against the bitter cold. Although they were very close to Moscow, the fierce resistance of the Red Army, coupled with unexpected counterattacks, halted the German advance. Battles raged in horrific conditions, where cold and death walked hand in hand. Every meter of ground gained was paid for with countless lives. Panzergruppe 4, once an invincible war machine, was now exhausted, both in manpower and equipment. On December 5, 1941, as Hübner prepared for a final assault, the Red Army launched its winter counteroffensive. The German forces were repelled in disarray. The dream of capturing Moscow shattered, leaving behind immense pain and despair. The freezing winter had frozen not only the soldiers, but also the Wehrmacht's hope for a swift victory. The brutality was not just in death, but in the mental exhaustion, the disillusionment of soldiers who once believed in invincibility. In 1942, Panzergruppe 4 was renamed the Fourth Panzer Army and redeployed to the south, participating in Operation Blue, a new attempt to seize the Caucasus oil fields and the city of Stalingrad. At this point, under the command of General Hermann Hoth, the 4th Panzer Army was tasked with advancing on Stalingrad from the south, coordinating with the 6th Army from the west. Stalingrad became a colossal slaughterhouse. The 4th Panzer Army, despite initial successes, quickly became bogged down in the brutal urban warfare. Every street corner, every building, was a bloody battlefield. The Germans might have taken over 90% of the city, but they could not eliminate the last pockets of Soviet resistance. On November 19, 1942, the Red Army launched Operation Uranus, a counteroffensive that encircled the entire 6th Army and a portion of the 4th Panzer Army. Hundreds of thousands of German soldiers were trapped in the deadly snare of Stalingrad. The 4th Panzer Army's efforts to break the encirclement during Operation Winter Storm failed disastrously. Isolated, starved, short on ammunition, and facing horrifying cold, the fate of the soldiers within the pocket was sealed. Thousands died from starvation, disease, and frostbite before the last shot was fired. Stalingrad was not just a military defeat. It was an immense human catastrophe, where the 4th Panzer Army witnessed the horrific destruction of their comrades and themselves. Despite heavy losses, the 4th Panzer Army was reorganized and reinforced. In 1943, they once again became the spearhead in the Battle of Kursk, the largest tank engagement in history. Even with an additional 1,100 tanks and 250,000 men, they could not break through the formidable Soviet defenses. This battle exacted a terrible toll on both sides, leaving battlefields littered with burnt-out tanks and tens of thousands of casualties. From Kursk, the 4th Panzer Army entered a new phase of the war, the retreat. The Red Army's counteroffensives across the Eastern Front forced them into continuous fighting, defending every inch of ground, gradually withdrawing through Ukraine and then Poland. This was a war of attrition, where every day was a fight for survival, with no time for rest or complete rebuild. Exhaustion, despair, and death became constant companions. By early 1945, the 4th Panzer Army, or what remained of it, had been pushed back to German territory. During Operation Vistula-Oder and subsequently the Battle of Berlin, the unit was encircled and completely destroyed. Tens of thousands of soldiers died in those final battles or became prisoners of war. Commanders like Erich Höppner were executed for their role in the July 20th plot, while Hermann Hoth was convicted at the Nuremberg trials for war crimes. The history of the 4th Panzer Army stands as a vivid testament to the unimaginable brutality of war. From the initial directives of annihilation to the tragic demise at Stalingrad and the disintegration in the final days, their every step was marked by blood and tears. It reminds us of the terrible cost of hatred and our responsibility to preserve peace, so that such tragedies may never be repeated.